Okay, can I get a motion to approve that adjustment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is public comments regarding agenda items. And it looks like we have one.
Hi, Kristen Hamilton. I just wanted to talk about the collective bargaining agreement that you guys have. I believe it's item 8A. I would like to say thank you to Mr. Givney, Dr. French, Mr. Harvey, Mr. Wilson, and the rest of the board for continuing to work with us diligently through negotiations. We are very ecstatic with the offer that you have provided. Is very generous, and we are very thankful. And we just appreciate you recognizing the fact that we needed to increase our pay to be competitive in the county. So we really appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, moving on. Next item on the agenda is recognitions. Mr. Givney.
Yeah, so as is customary, we like to celebrate successes at our board meeting. So if we could start off with Mrs. Johnson and Redpath.
This is Jagger Berry, isn't he just a handsome man? Jagger is the September Student of the Month at Redpath, and he has been nominated by his classroom teacher, Heather Miller. And she says, "I am so proud of how hard Jagger has worked to start the school year. He is showing such self-motivation on a daily basis and has been a great role model and helper to the students in his reading group. Jagger has shown an interest in learning and wanting to succeed that I have not seen before. I cannot wait to see what the rest of the school year holds." When I called and talked to Mom earlier in the month to tell her that we were so proud of him, we both got a little choked up. And so it has been amazing to watch the transformation of having a little primary kiddo be ready for TZ and all the growth. And he has become such a phenomenal helper in the cafeteria with me when I'm in there and with his friends. So Jagger Berry is our Student of the Month.
I'm happy to present for Deer Meadow Corey Brown. Corey is a first grader in Mrs. Minor's class, and Mrs. Minor writes, "Corey is a very hard worker. She does her very best with her classroom work. She's a great friend and helps others when needed. Corey shows a positive attitude. She participates in class and is a great listener and follows directions. She is a great example of a star student." Corey Brown.
She's hiding from you.
So this is Phoenix Eagleton. She's our Student of the Month, and she's perfect. She's the perfect Student of the Month. So, and she's in Mrs. Cantonwine's classroom, and Mrs. Cantonwine is here too. And so this is what Mrs. Cantonwine has to say about Phoenix. Let me put my eyes on, okay, so I can read it. "I chose Phoenix Pingleton as my Student of the Month because of her good character. Phoenix is someone who really tries to do her best in class. Not only does she want to please her teacher, but she also wants to be good friends to others. Phoenix is always looking for ways that she can help others in our classroom. She is aware of what is going on around her, and she is willing to help at any given moment. Phoenix is someone that I can count on when there is another student who needs help packing their bag, finding a page in their workbook, or even encouraging other students to make a good choice." And today at lunch, as I watched Phoenix, she was going around just helping others, doing things and opening, helping kiddos get ready. So You're a perfect pick. I'm really proud of you. Congratulations.
And in case anyone's wondering, we have a backdrop in the other room that we'd like to take pictures in front of.
Get your flag around out the back.
For the Middle School Student of the Month, I'd like to recognize Logan Wood. We actually had several teachers nominate Logan this month. Logan is always helpful to others. He follows all classroom rules. He is honest and concerned about the welfare of others in the classroom. He goes out of his way to help clean up the classroom and tells me, the teacher, when he sees a problem. Logan is trustworthy and always does the right thing. Congratulations, Logan.
The high school would like to recognize Haley Timchek. She was nominated by Dr. Johnson, who is here with us. Dr. Johnson said, Haley is an outstanding student, is always on top of things. She is one of the most organized people I know. She's able to keep track of her many assignments, works a part-time job, and is in art club and is part of the competition cheer club. Haley is helping to organize the art supply cabinets and washes all the students' dishes each day without having to be reminded as part of her teaching assistant position. I can always count on her to take care of the tasks that need to be done, often without requesting help. She's a pure example of a responsible person. We offer Haley.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which consists of meeting minutes from the executive session of September 27th and the regular board meeting minutes of September 27th, the allowance of claims, the financial report, and personnel reports, part 1 and 2, which are posted on the website and on the front door. So, that leads us to Mrs. Romer.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
In your finance pack, you're going to see 2 regular payrolls for the month of September. One was dated September 3rd, 2021, for a total payroll of $413,349.40. And along with that came the accounts payable for retirement and payroll taxes. Total for that accounts payable was $116,370.25. Second regular payroll in September was dated September 17th, 2021. Total payroll of $407,665.30. And with that, the accounts payable for retirement and payroll taxes, $114,271.85. And next in your packet, you're going to see a list of prepays for the month of September. There's nothing unusual on this list. Did anyone have any questions about anything listed? No? Okay. Total prepays for the month of September, $318,698.42. And then you'll see a list of accounts payable dated today, October 25th, 2021. Did anyone have any questions about any of the claims this month? No? Okay. So total claims for today, October 25th, 2021, $258,981.81. Are we ready to move on to the finance report? Okay. All right, next in your packet, you're going to see the fund report. Total balance at the end of September 2021 in education fund was $1,569,738.31. Ending balance in operations, September 21st, 2021, $1,436,674.88. Total on all funds, if you go to the last page, page 5, for all funds, it's $6,298,976.18. Next in your packet, you will see the depository statement and bank balances. So of course, the bank balances minus any outstanding checks, that's what we'll look here at the bottom for our September 2021 fund balance. You'll see on here is $6,298,976.18. You'll match that up with the last page of the fund report, and you'll see that we have balanced out for the month of September 2021. And then lastly, in your finance packet, you'll just see the ongoing expenditures for bond 2021. We had our expenditures from July through September last month. And then you'll just see we've only had 2 this month. We've got a couple pending that probably won't make it until November, but we just listed what's here that we've paid here in October. So the total to date paid out of bond 2021 is $1,872,742.37. And pending any questions, I'd like to recommend for approval.
I do not have any questions this month.
I do not. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is reports. First from Assistant Superintendent, Dr. French.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So a couple of items I wanted to point out, just some information to give to you tonight. So first, if you remember Imagine Learning, which is our online supplemental curriculum, they're going to be running a November contest for our students. So in each elementary building, the class with the most usage gets a pizza party. And the student, the individual student in each building that has the most usage, wins a hoverboard. So they're really excited about that. So hopefully that can increase some homework and usage time outside of class for math, facts, and those other skills. And the next item I wanted to mention, and I provided you with a brief description there at your seat, but is the Indiana GPS, or the Indiana Graduates Prepared to Succeed. This is a new initiative coming down from the DOE. It's still in the idea phase, not in the implementation phase, but I did want to make you aware of it. So according to the DOE's research, they show that 40% of high school students don't have a plan for after graduation. So what they hope to do is to be able to provide another accountability tool for schools by creating this Indiana GPS dashboard. So basically the goal for the dashboard, they want to define characteristics of a successful student, provide transparent information about school performance, and identify model schools and schools which need additional support. So basically an online dashboard that houses all of the Indiana schools information. That's a tool of transparency. The DOE has identified characteristics of a successful student. I've kind of bulleted it there. But a successful student has academic mastery, career and post-secondary readiness, communication, collaboration, work ethic, and civic, financial, and digital literacy. So the next challenge that they have is quantifying those characteristics, which you can see is going to be difficult because it's not typical to quantify work ethic.
Right.
So they are meeting and deliberating in December, the State Board of Education along with the DOE, to kind of define and try to find what these measurement tools will look like. And then once they identify those, then it becomes our job as a school district to collect that data, disseminate that data, and make sure that that is up to date and posted on our website. So while this is still an idea phase, they've got this idea, they're trying to figure out how to make it logistically possible, and then once that information comes out, we'll be required to share that data. So really, what does that mean for us? It's just basically more data and different data that we might have to collect along with what we currently collect, which is our standardized test scores and those types of things, our overall school performance. So this just becomes another piece of school performance and transparency. So any questions over that?
I guess I was just wondering how it was going to help us at all.
It's a good question.
It's more data.
It's a good question, yeah. So it's just another accountability tool. Like it mentions, to identify model schools and schools that need additional support. If that is a motivational tool or incentive for schools, not sure how effective that is.
Right.
But regardless, I wanted to put this on your radar, and when information does come out, I'll make sure that we share that so that we are doing our part of that accountability piece anyway.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
So initially, this is looking at, looking at a traditional college or university, correct? It's not, so not any sort of,
So not necessarily, so anything post-secondary, so after
Okay.
they graduate, they're saying 40% of these, our high school graduates don't have a plan in general. So whether that's enlistment, employment, or college and career.
okay.
So credentials and certifications would
That's-
fall into that.
That's what I was getting, okay, all right, yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of pushback with A to F and just a single metric in looking at academic achievement through iLearn and iRead. And so this brings in a broader perspective, but I'm interested in seeing again how how they're gonna quantify or measure work ethic and some of those other pieces. So we definitely wanted to get you the information and kind of start that conversation.
Yeah. And I'm curious to see what tools they come up with as evidence to be able to quantify characteristics of people. So we might all learn something.
Will be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Next is Superintendent, Mr. Gibney.
Yep, so I just have a couple of brief things. One is obviously like to congratulate everyone for finishing another 9 weeks at Greencastle Schools. It certainly hasn't been without any challenges, so our staff once again has not just survived, they've thrived, in the words of Mr. McHugh and his staff. And so they've done a great job and had some parent-teacher conferences over the past couple of weeks and continuing, and so our teachers and staff continue to do a great job. And another culminating piece of all that effort, certainly, wrapping up fall athletics. We had some students advance at different levels. We had a cross-country runner advance to semi-state. While we're done competing, certainly we think that they had a very successful year. We had just last week had our choir and band concerts for both middle school and high school, and once again, they just continue to do amazing things. So definitely want to share kind words for that, and just definitely thank our students and staff for continuing those kinds of opportunities. But most importantly, I wanted to bring to the table again Mike Montgomery from KRM Architect Group and Dan Slakowski with Kramer Company as our owner rep to provide some updates with regards to our construction project. Yes. Yep. Can you connect wirelessly from that, or you want to plug in? Okay. And Corey, yep, there you go. You're a pretty quick study at it, I'll give you that. Took me a lot longer to understand.
Jeff, have you given any thought to riding the hoverboards around and showing the kids how they work when they win them?
Yeah, I'm gonna not comment on that. I actually tried unsuccessly to even board one of the hoverboards in the garage, and without much success. I never was even able to stand on the hoverboard. But our fabulous executive secretary,
She got right up there.
Pro.
she's a pro. Those things are hard and dangerous. We'd probably have to up our liability policy if I was gonna ride one of those.
See a workman's comp.
Yeah.
Coming down the pike here.
There we go. Outstanding. email with print copies for the board.
So, then, that's kind of money.
Yeah, yeah.
So many toys. Thought this evening we might give you types of information if I was wanting to hear from, as a board member, because we are transitioning from design into bidding and construction. It's going to have more of an impact on how the students are affected, people in your community who might be bidding on the project, and things you might hear about over the next few months. So the track football project is near complete. The added work at the walkway is underway. And number 3 there, you'll see some more information from Mr. Sikowski about the status of the contract on that. And then high school and McAnally project. The current efforts are basically we're completing the designs and the documents of the various areas in the high school and McAnally Center. We have some examples of that tonight that you may not have seen before. One of the hot topics right now is we're developing a construction sequencing plan for the contractors to allow school to continue to operate. And we want to make sure that we give them as much information as possible, and we'll show you that in just a minute here. And next week, a submission to the city of Greencastle goes in for city approval. We had a preliminary meeting with them a couple months ago, and we've had some back and forth with them, so I think we're all on the same page with that. Under bidding, the plan is the project will be bid in 2 groups. Group 1 will be all the work at the high school, including the renovations of the McAnally Center, the connector project, and all the renovations inside the high school. The second bid group will be the baseball and softball complex. A contractor can bid on both bid groups or either bid group, and then the school would pick their best combination of bids that they receive at that point. The final bid date's yet to be set. We're still finishing the documents, but it'll probably be the end of December, early January when the bids come in. We know we're getting into holidays there, so we want to time that just right. And we'll talk about that more tomorrow with Mr. Gibney and Mr. Solkowski. Contractors and cost. Both us and Kraber Companies have made calls, talked to people, and the general feeling we get is the general contractors, there's good interest. It's a nice sized project. They're looking for big work to fill in for next year. But we are facing materials and subcontractor costs that are escalated. So it's kind of an interesting bidders market out there right now. And the way that we've strategized to control this is there'll be a group of work, most of the work, that will be set as a base bid. So all the contractors will bid on the base bid. And then there'll be a series of alternates that they can add to the cost. So the school can see the base bid, sort through that, and then select the alternates that make the best value for the school. We hope the bids come in great and you can select all the alternates, but the last thing we want to do is open the bids and not have a project that fit within your budget. So this is not an uncommon process, so it's a little nerve-wracking to be sure. And some of the next steps, just as a reminder, as soon as this group of work is under contract, we'll start working on the final phase of design, which involves the middle school science, media center, and security. And then number 2 is the Depository Elementary moisture correction. We got a brief update on that tonight that we think it's really interesting. Then number 3 is the east parking lot at the high school, the secure entrances at the primary school and other places, and then there's some exterior repairs at Redpath Elementary. And I may have forgotten a couple, but that pretty well summarizes what happens as soon as these contracts go out. And those are intended to, they take a lot less work, they're smaller in scope, so they'll bid next spring after the big project is underway. So to back up to number 2 there, the Tesonicus Elementary, there's been depends on how you look at it. We either got some bad news or some good news. The bad news is, it's been kind of going on for a while, years, and different attempts to find the problem have gone on. So this time there were a few different attempts. We had soil borings in the ground to test the moisture in the ground. We had the mechanical system evaluated to help us understand if the units were just too big and would not dehumidify the building. And really the third, and it wasn't either one of those. The soil engineering company said you need to look someplace else. It's not the soil, groundwater. Even there is a groundwater problem there, it's not saturating the soil and it's not coming up from underneath the slab. It's running off in kind of a disorganized fashion, but it's not saturating the ground. And just to let you know, one of the reasons that we thought that might be important is there is a history of groundwater problems in Greencastle because of the rock layer that you have underneath, and it gets trapped. And we got fortunate that we came across a very experienced soil engineer who had experience in Greencastle, and they drilled a few holes and they determined that wasn't it. But the final step of the testing was to pressurize the building and see if it leaked. And that was last week over spring break. Company TSI Energy was on site for 2 days, and they basically put fans in the building to pressurize it, and they know based on the building size how much air it should leak. They go inside and use smoke to see where it's leaking. And what they found was the building really leaks a lot. And what's happening is that where there's soffits and overhangs, it's open between the outside and the inside above the ceiling. And it leaked enough that they had a hard time even pressurizing the building. So that's the bad news. The good news is we really believe we found the problem. And I think the solutions may not be as bad as they actually might sound, as it's leaking all the way around the building, but in a pretty specific spot. So that's the good news in that. So if it's okay, I'll just keep on going here unless there's any questions about that. And Dan, I don't know if you want to speak to this or not. This is from Crane Company.
So we're tracking track and football field. Again, this project is under construction. There's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is it's late, obviously late. The good news is that the contract is set up that protects you as the owner. And from the standpoint of the pros and cons, which is the sheet that you see up there, there's a few things that weren't provided correctly. The incorrect purple when the carpet was delivered. There's a 4-inch long jump runway poured in lieu of the 6-inch specified. Poor concrete workmanship at the shot put and discus pads. They had to be rejected and replaced. Damaged track drain during asphalt operations was rejected. Delay in the track progress due to curb removal and replacement. 600 linear foot of curb is they put down and had to be removed. And then late delivery on the field and the track. We have what's called liquidated damages on completion dates. For the field, it's September 1. All right, we're way past that. It's $2,500 a day liquidated damages until we get a full completed project. The track was scheduled to be done October 1st, and we're now tracking liquidated damages on that. The good news, the bad news, we all, the contractor is not bad. Actually, the contractor, Moats, is a well-known contractor, does professional fields, does college fields, does high school fields, all throughout the state of Indiana. The Indianapolis Colts endorse them. And for some reason, they said this is the first project that has gone so poorly on their end. They're same subcontractors and everything else. So, at least from our perspective, we like to feel like it's the first one they've been caught on. Okay. What that means to you is you get a higher quality project because the items have been observed, acknowledged by the contractor as non-compliant with the contract documents, and then replaced. We like to put estimated values on that. to date, including liquidated damages. The estimated value received is approaching $400,000. So you're in a pretty good spot with the project being late, is the meaning of that. So offsets, late project, get a little money back, that gives us money to use somewhere else. So, any questions?
Was there an upgrade in the track? Can you talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
yeah, so the delays pushed the track past October 1st. And the reason that October 1st date was set was because of weather conditions. You can see out here, we've got cold temperatures getting down in the 30s, all right? Well, putting that surface on there, you have to have a certain temperature. The poly,
We were scheduled for a latex track surface.
latex, thank you. Latex, it has to be like 40 degrees and rising during the day. Well, we're getting down into the 30s now. They didn't want to risk not hitting that target, not being able to deliver a working track for you next spring. So they upgraded the track to a
Holly?
poly. Thank you. That is a $100,000 upgrade, okay? And the reason they upgraded that is because of the temperature sensitive nature that can take you down into the 30s. Okay, so we got 30 degrees and rising now. We can put this track down. Matter of fact, it's down out there. We're waiting for a good day now to put the stripes around. We're waiting on weather to reinstall the concrete for the discus and the shot put. And then there's a few pieces of the sidewalk around there that are getting removed or in place as well. So, anything else?
Looks nice.
Done?
Yeah, they did a great job. I will say, when we called them out on these, there wasn't a lot of arguing. They acknowledged it. And we judge people not by their flaws or what they don't do, it's what they do when something happens. And they did it. They did what they were supposed to do. They came to the table, they fixed it, they offered some offsets to the school that we still have to finalize. But at the end of the day, you're gonna have a little bit extra money. And then there should be no concerns that we had a quality contractor out there. They're supposedly the best in the industry. So, and yeah, everything works great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So to talk a little bit about construction phasing. So this is going to affect the students and all of the faculty. This is just for your example, or information. It's, the aerial photograph of how it looks now. You can see north is to the right. This is the high school, McAnally Center, and the new construction goes in the connection between the high school and the McAnally Center. So, this is a critical location on your campus, and there has to be access for the contractors, materials, and all the things that you can imagine. So there's a few steps getting to the point where we believe it's a well-organized project. The first step is the yellow is a new access drive. It's a permanent access drive that will allow access back to the maintenance areas because you are going to cut that off with the red, which is the new construction. The other part that goes along with that is there needs to be a way for the students to get over to McAnally. So we're going to talk with Mr. Gibbon and his staff and Dan more tomorrow, but what's kind of proposed is a walkway coming from this entrance along the west side and going back into McAnally. And it could be a covered walkway, it could be open on one side for security, there's a lot of options for that, because right now the students walk outside, all this is farther. So this would form kind of a wall that, so the trucks would be able to get in through the yellow, the students would be able to get around on the purple to access between the two buildings. The other component that's kind of important here is there's a fiber optic running between the buildings and a couple other things. Those would run on that temporary walkway because they're going to get cut early in the process. Another particularly tricky part is, on the survey, there was a water line marked. Well, we thought it was a 3 or 4 inch water line. It was a 12-inch city utility water line. It runs right between your building, like this. So we've been working with the city utility as well as the civil engineer, and there'll be a new water line that runs in a tunnel underneath your building with the pipe in it. If the pipe breaks, it'll drain out onto the ground. It won't fill up your basement or anything like that. And the mayor's been directly involved in these conversations. He's been very helpful in that. So the new pipe would be put in, then the old one cut before they'd be able to excavate. You're gonna lose the south portion of the south gym fairly early, although that was intended anyhow. It's just a matter of timing. And then the final component of it is the purple is the area where the contractor will be allowed to operate. And there's 2 different phases in this. And one of them, and this is kind of a detail, there needs to be a new entrance out to the north so that students can get in and out without getting close to the construction. And the city is actually, previously when we met with the mayor and the city engineer, they already want to do this for the schools. And just as a reminder, there's one that they will do into the middle school lot. And we told them, we're not ready to specifically tell you where to put it at, although we are now, and they're fine with that. They'll do the engineering of it and install it whenever we need it. This will be a temporary cut for construction that will be followed up. So this will be how the contractors will operate first thing in the morning and then at dismissal. And then after the buses are come and gone and everybody's dropped off, then some barricades would be removed, and then the contractors would have access to the street because they'll have equipment, materials, and men coming in. So there's going to be daily coordination needed between the contractors and the transportation staff and everybody, to tell you the truth. So you can see it's a little bit complicated, but I think if we all work at it and we get a good contractor, it'll work just fine. And then inside the building, there's basic phasing of that needs to go on. And we've been having those conversations with Chad Wallace and the high school staff, and those will be continued over the next couple of weeks. So is there any questions about that? Sorry for jumping around there a little bit.
It'll be messy and we'll have to work around it, but one of the reasons we're having these conversations early is so that we can obviously eventually have conversations with our teachers, right? Because we certainly want to minimize any disruption to the educational day, but we might have to, work on different patterns and things of that nature. So it is our goal to obviously come up with those answers and have some conversations so that way we can have a final plan, but it's still really early in that process.
So to talk a little bit more about the specific design, some things maybe you haven't heard before, because it has been evolving.
Can you blow that one up, Mike?
Yeah. So this is the floor plan of the new library media center, and this is the existing outside wall of the building right across here. So this is a new expansion, and you can see it's all one media center with glass along the corridor. And then some of the images you see to the side, like this is the general feel of the reference desk, and you can see some of the lighting and wood tone materials. And the wood tone is not, it's intentional. There's quite a body of research now that talks about using natural materials. When people touch them, they actually learn more, retain information better than if it's plastics and things like that. So that was one of the conversations that we had with the staff. Just scroll down through here, some of the things that you might see in that space. And just kind of keep going. These are some additional images. This is looking out into the courtyard. Shelving, types of furniture, and the colors that the staff has been working with us on. Some other views and types of seating, and we're being conscientious of having places for kids to plug in their portable devices. informational screens that we're hoping to do in there to give, at least have the technology set up that as the school grows into it, they'd have lots of places to display information and collaborative work with the students. Lower shelving in some places, mostly high shelving around the perimeter so it's easier to see. Again, these are intended to just give you a general feel of the type of, to the right is the, looking out into the courtyard, to the left is into the, back towards the corridor. Just for information, this is what it would look like out in the courtyard. This is the new construction. It's proposed to be brick, like most of your building is. And, some of the finishes, to just show you some smattering of them. These are the types of images that your staff's been looking at as they work with our design team. And, I have to admit, I haven't been in all those meetings, so I don't know the final decisions, but Winifred Williams, the project architect for the high school, is working, and others are working with your staff, trying to get just some accent paints of the school colors and keep them in the kind of purples and grays and wood tones. And any of you in the room who are on those teams say I say anything wrong, don't hesitate to yell it out. But we've shown them various options, and I think those are starting to vet themselves out in terms of the final finishes. The design process has gone through, we're using three-dimensional images so the staff can really see what the plan is. So these are small buildings. There is, all the doors are being replaced, new hardware. Several of them do not meet ADA compliance, so a lot of the door swings will be changed. I believe all the chalkboards are being changed to whiteboards. Yep. New flooring in all the rooms, new ceiling pads at the very least in all the rooms. Some of the rooms will get new grid. So you walk in, it'll feel like a new classroom. All the finishes will be new, the furniture. New casework going in the classrooms. This happens to be an example of one of the science classrooms. Some examples. And then one of the alternates, it's going to be a little difficult to fully gather from this, but this is a floor plan. The hatched area is this is the cafeteria, this is the servery, and this is the kitchen. And this is the white area is part of the base bid, which is new construction. There'll be an opening between the existing cafeteria and this new construction, so you'll at least get some new seating because the cafeteria is just so crowded. And the alternate, which I think everybody's pretty excited about, is to completely reconfigure the kitchen area. We're using a lot of equipment, but create a better, more grab-and-go type of servery, the types of things you might see in a college campus. And you can see it pops out here and allows the same additional seating down through here, along with all new finishes and a real upgrade to the cafeteria. And again, I think everybody's really hopeful that that can occur. So that's kind of a snapshot of where we're at. If you've got any questions, I'd sure like to answer them.
I'd like to ask a question back on TZ, when we talked about the inspection that you all did and so forth. And I helped build a couple houses in my lifetime, and always thought that the fascia board was put there so the house could breathe. And I understand now we've got maybe a little problem with that fascia. Is that something you looked at, or have you tried to look in insulation inside that building, in the ceiling? Or is that something in the future you're going to try to look at?
Well, we have not received the official report, although we have talked with the testing company. And on a house, it's very common to leave the soffit so air can get up and flow across the insulation and get out so it stays ventilated up there. And however, in this building, there is no insulation above the ceilings.
Okay.
So when that air goes up, it's basically going in right above ceiling tile. And while that is typical house construction, it is not the same on commercial. The other thing with these commercial buildings is they have some level of pressurization in them. So, so when they leak like that, it creates an additional input of humid air. And I'm going to get some of these comments wrong because our engineers are going to help us with this. But one of the things that in talking with the testing company, there are very specific standards that buildings should comply with, adopted by the Army Corps of Engineers, that how many cubic feet a minute a building should leak per square foot. And this particular one leaked so much that they could barely do the testing. And their suggestion was you do this in 2 steps. First, we would find a mechanism to close up the soffit and then test them again, because there's likely other leaks that they couldn't find with their smoke. They just didn't have enough pressure to do it.
I might suggest a venter ridge.
Pardon?
Venter ridge.
Venter ridge, yeah.
That might help. Suggestion, thank you.
Yeah, and you know, the other good thing that could come out of this is you might save some utility dollars, because you won't be leaking as much energy out of it. So, yet to come, final solutions, but it was good to find out.
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. And we'll follow up this report in an email so you can have a print copy of it.
Yeah, great, thanks. Okay, next item on the agenda is old business. We have no old business. So we move on to new business, and first item is the tentative agreement for the 2021-2022 collective bargaining agreement between Greencastle Community School Corporation and the Greencastle Classroom Teachers Association. Mr. Gibbon.
Yeah, so as you know, as you can recall, we've worked really hard to help improve our financial situation at Greencastle Schools. And over the past year, we've had to make some difficult decisions, and we've had some staff members leave that we've decided not to replace some positions because we needed to right-size our staffing, because as students have left, we have not made any adjustments in staff, because in part we know that fewer students bring fewer dollars. And so that's helped us to reduce our operating costs from the educational fund. We also know that the General Assembly last spring increased school funding, and that's a significant boost as well. And on top of that, this fall, our student count on the first count day was 1,773 students, which is plus 69 students from last spring and also up from last fall. So all of those 3 things have helped us improve our financial situation. We still have work to do to build enough of a 10 to 15% reserve in our educational fund. But it's also allowed us to take a great step forward in our school corporation that I'm very proud of. Is by the end of the next collective bargaining year, we have to meet that $40,000 starting pay requirement. And there's also a requirement where you have to spend 45% of your total state tuition support on teacher salaries. And this collective bargaining agreement really catapults us forward and helps us accomplish the first one, and that's to set a starting salary for somebody with a bachelor's degree right at $40,000, a master's degree at $41,000, and a doctorate at $42,000. And so previously, those same numbers were $35,000, $36,181, and $37,402. And then it also helps us shift the top of the scale from $62,419, $64,522, and $66,700 to $68,275, $69,982, and $71,689. So I think this keeps us very competitive, and obviously it's a good faith effort, and we obviously want to support our staff and our teachers when we can, and that's I think a significant victory in doing so. So you might kind of be asking yourself, well, what does that mean for like an individual teacher? So on an individual teacher level, somebody brand new to somebody returning can expect roughly anywhere between an additional $4,800 to $6,100, which is huge. Our teachers who worked over 120 days last year will obviously get the adjustment to the new level, but then they'll also move up one level or kind of earn their step. If you think of percentage, it's roughly between 8 to 16.6%. That number is, the percent is higher at the bottom of the scale and tapers
Sure.
off as you work your way up. But that's really big, really huge. Appreciate the support of the GCTA and the patience and working to obviously make these improvements, but to also recognize that we need to be responsible and we don't want to take one step forward and 2 steps back in trying to move forward with a plan that we can't fund or can't sustain. The other big piece of this is the transition to a new ECA schedule. So many of our staff members who also sponsor clubs, academic teams, or athletic teams will also see a little bit of a bump there, as well as we move to an index based off a percent off of $40,000. So pretty significant. It took some time to get to, but I'm really proud that we got there and we're getting there quick. So this is the tentative agreement hearing that we have to have. The next step will be for the GCTA to ratify, and then we'll be back to the table. I was hoping to have a special board meeting maybe next Monday for the board to ratify. I didn't know if we advertised one for early afternoon, albeit like 4 o'clock, if that would work for the board to attend. And if we could kind of work towards that, if you could, I don't know if you're available, if we have, we're good.
I'm good.
What time was that again?
4 o'clock. It'll be the only agenda item,
Let me see what I can do.
okay?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So I think we can have a majority, if
Sure,
that's
yeah.
okay, then we'll move forward with doing that. That way, staff doesn't have to stay or hang around for another meeting to approve that. So we'll work on advertising that meeting.
Thank you for working on that, Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Great.
I'm glad we can give back.
So now, this is a hearing, do we need to open this up for comment also?
So it wasn't, it's not technically a hearing. I mean, it was on the agenda. We've allowed public comment, so we've satisfied that requirement. No.
Not today.
No.
So it's not really, yeah.
No, it's just informational. We have to summarize it. We have to allow public comment. And if anybody has other public comment.
Come on, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Just simply put, I'd like to say thank you to the efforts from the board, from Mr. Gibney. You know, being a teacher here at EZ, it does mean a lot to see not just, more money on the table, but to see those efforts that show us that you get. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And so, kind of with that being said, the next thing would be to kind of turn and take a look at some of our other employee classifications and to look at increases for those groups as well.
Okay, good enough. Next item on the agenda is an approval request for the adoption of capital projects plan, school bus replacement plan, and the 2022 budget-related resolutions. Mr. Gibney.
Yep, so as you recall, it's kind of a twofold effort working between the school corporation and the county council, who actually adopts or approves our budget. That step has happened, and so this is the final step with for the 2022 budget process. So it's my recommendation that the board adopts the capital project plan, school bus replacement plan, and also the 2022 budget-related resolutions.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is an approval request for resolution number 1, use of event link for online payments to officials.
Yeah, so this is for athletics. The board actually approved using EventLink to pay officials out of the ECA account at a previous meeting, but we needed to formalize it in the form of a resolution, and so that's why we're bringing it back to you this month. So that way we can satisfy the State Board of Accounts requirement.
Okay.
I make a motion we pass this resolution.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item is an approval request for a Wednesday school supervisor position at Greencastle Middle School.
Yeah, so much like the high school has a Wednesday school detention, essentially the middle school is seeking the same opportunity to hold a Wednesday school, essentially at 3 hours after school, and a lot of times the administrators use that consequence in lieu of a suspension, and so we think that this will hopefully be very helpful and hopefully help to alleviate some of the discipline issues and help course correct and keep kids on track.
I'll make a motion to create this school supervisor job position in the middle school.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is an approval request to accept several donations. First being Mary Allison's Children's Trust to K-4 after-school program in the amount of $2,000. Mary Allison Children's Trust to Greencastle Middle School in the amount of $8,556.45. Mary Allison Children's Trust to Deer Meadow Primary in the amount of $3,500. Jeff and Denise Sigworth to Greencastle High School Boys Swim Team in the amount of $1,865. Soil and Water NCRS to Redpath Primary in the amount of $2,000. Olive Turk Trust to Greencastle High School in the amount of $12,331.33. Seniors Towing LLC to Greencastle High School Athletics in the amount of $1,500. And McDonald's to Greencastle High School Tiger Cub Pawcast in the amount of $500.
That's rough math, that's about $32,000.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, it's significant money, and I'll say a lot of the Mary Allison Children's Trust were individually submitted teacher grants by staff members, and we blew the other, I'm gonna self-promote here, so kind of brag on our district, we blew the other county school districts away. It wasn't even close. I think we had close to 18 awarded, and the other 3 school districts may have had like 4 or 5 combined. So that's a testament to our staff members and advocating for their students and needs and supporting their kids. It's definitely something to be proud of, and it's nice to have community partners willing to support our teachers and students.
Amen. Very cool.
Okay, let's get a motion to approve these.
I will make that motion to approve. And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Last on the new business is an approval request for ERS to install wireless cameras for the central office and bus transport.
For
transportation
yeah,
center.
ERS Wireless. To install-
ERS
yeah,
Wireless.
That's the company, yep, sorry. To install cameras here at central office, transportation center, and actually includes a couple of, I believe, card readers for our building as well, because we're replacing some of our exterior doors. And we think these cameras are long overdue and needed, and they'll provide complete coverage of our assets throughout our entire school district. So I appreciate Corey securing those quotes. We got a quote from one of the companies that we work with on a lot of our projects. They happen to be high bidder. We actually found a reduced quote from another reputable company, being ERS Wireless, and we'd like to move forwards with that work.
Okay,
How soon with that?
Yeah, I assume the only issue is just depending upon what they have stocked or in inventory as far as equipment. I assume that they have some of those things.
Cameras are one of the items that are long, hard to get right now.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know how long we've gone without here. I hate to say this, I actually thought for a long time we actually had cameras here because we've had a few, but those are no longer operational. But it'd just be good to have that. There'll actually be a camera placed here in the boardroom, and reception, obviously over at Transportation Center. We have a lot of blind spots, and this will help to fill in some of those gaps. So I would assume work would commence as soon as they receive some of those equipment pieces. They might even be able to begin without having everything in place, doing a lot of the wiring and things of that nature, so they can just plug them in.
right,
Okay.
okay, sounds good.
I'll make a motion to purchase these things.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is other business. Does anyone have any other business?
For some reason, it popped into my head right as I was pulling in. Do we have any status update on the dog?
Oh, yeah, the puppy dog's supposed to be here, I think, maybe the first week in November.
Okay.
It's finishing up its training course. Okay.
Okay.
Yep,
Great.
but we will, Dory the Doodle, Dory after Dory from Finding Nemo, we'll make a visit to one of our board meetings sometime.
All right.
The
Perfect.
kids voted on that name and selected it.
All right.
Good.
So cool.
Okay, last item on the agenda is adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion. Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for coming and be careful of going home.
Thank you, everyone.